Internet, Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. That means you've been paid for. That makes you immortal now, and he's not going to be long anyway. You found Stop the White Noise with Jonathan and Meridith. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Meridith.
Don't wallow in the muck with those who have no hope. Lift up your head all the more as you see the day approaching. And you might think wars and rumors of wars are a thing that means that day is soon. Our Lord said these are the beginnings of birth pains. That said, we are at a pretty interesting point in our nation's history, and I am hoping to talk with you, Meredith, tonight about that. But first, I want to start off with this. I do not think I am alone. I am a man struggling to embrace his identity and thereby stand in confidence, to live with intention, to be one of integrity. But I struggle to overcome the dissonance of knowing that I often prop up illusions in my life. I spiritualize the denials of my behavior, my bad experiences, and my poor relationships. And it has made me sick to my soul of empty, heroic transformation narratives that do not save. I'm certainly weary of having it be out of my control. I'm also weary of accepting victimhood. If it is my fault, then I'm going to do something about it. I don't know what we do if the United States actually shoots at Texas. You and me. They can all listen. I don't know. You all know what's going on, right? Or are you just still living in mainstream crazy? Like, they're at the border. But here's the thing. They're not going to shoot. Not yet. They won't shoot at Texas. They want Texas to shoot at them. Mm. They want some Yahoo behind Texas to shoot over Texas at them, and they'll say Texas shot at us. Mm-hmm. Shot her around the world, if you recall your history lessons. What has already happened is just like diabolical. Biden administration has taken two like major industrial chemical things that Texas does and effectively just cut them off financially with the stroke of a pen, ceasing exports to one direction and then selling off a different thing. That's this week. So, I mean, they're actually going to just hurt the nation, right? We are in the closest thing to a modern civil war that anyone knows what it looks like already. We just have to see that they're posturing financially. It's like the blockades in Europe, you know, with the American boats against the German boats. I mean, they weren't shooting yet, but both administrations knew what they were doing, and they knew where they were going, and they knew it was to cover up fund deficits, which is a whole other thing. You know, the finances, we've talked about that here before. I bet the finances of America are they 37 trillion today. Gone. You know, American military budget and infrastructure and all these other things we're supposed to have. So, like, what happens? You know, and 25 states, every Republican governor says we're with Texas. Mm-hmm. And you can guess who's not with Texas, huh? But who are they with? That's the real question. It's clearly also a city-country divide, but not exclusively. As Dr. Kuntz has pointed out repeatedly, but more recently on our 2 Civil War episodes on A Brief History of Power, find it at briefhistorypower.com. Last 3 weeks, we've been talking about this long before this happened. As he points out, you know, the difficult thing about a war between the types of ideologies that we have fighting each other already around us right now is that they're not like over there and we're over here. It's like your neighborhood is, you know, a third, 2/3, no matter what, you know, one way or the other, even if you are red country, blue city. And so who gets caught in the middle and why and when? The thing that has bothered me most of all is the recklessness I hear from those who rightly have felt oppressed for too long, those who feel they don't get their due, those who feel that the system is corrupt and evil, and they think this is the chance for like great things to change it. I just don't think young men who haven't seen war know what war is. And if it changes it, it's not always for the better. And just because you say we're going to go doesn't mean you're going to. Ay. So there are convoys headed to Texas. We got our American Truckers convoy started. We got there are various states saying they will pledge support of National Guard troops. They have free militias that are headed down there too. Like everyone thinks it's a big party though. That's the thing that I don't like, right? It's all just sort of like, here we go with all our weapons. This is how meat grinders start, right? And so again, like, I don't think I'm out of this world to say, hey, welcome to Stop the White Noise. We should talk about, what do you do if, mom and dad are fighting? And I'm not talking mom and dad here, right? I'm talking superpower and superpower within the superpower. No. And, on the table, states' rights, I'm all a fan of the Constitution. Everything I think Texas is doing is constitutional, and they should do it. It's about time. It's about time states stood up. States could have stood up a long time ago. They showed this week that if the Supreme Court says this, the state can say no. Well, golly, could have done that with Roe versus Wade a long time ago. Could have done that a long time ago, states. Could have done when it started. Oops. But welcome to the balancing of the powers, right? Congress could stop what the government is doing at the federal border as well by cutting the budget to the entire thing, right? Cutting off the budget and the control of the border control. Congress allocates those funds. So like there's it's just a mess. And why do I want to talk about it? Well, because we're here and this is our country. It isn't the country I thought I lived in. It isn't the country I was told I was born in. But it is my country, and now Illinois is my state, and Rockford's my city, and if there's going to be men against men for the good of the future, though I be a preacher of the gospel, I'm hardly going to hold my voice silent for that reason's sake. I'm going to lift it up all the more. The kingdom is really what's at stake here. Like whatever you think you want to join a side of, whatever you're about to go do, you be sure you're on the kingdom. In the kingdom, you be sure that you're on that side of things. I keep tweeting, wear a white hat. I don't mean everyone has to wear a white hat, but I mean, be the good guy. I don't care where you are. I don't care what you got to do. Be the good guy when you do it. Don't give in to the malice, the rage, the bitterness, the frustration that, and that cynical rage again that I can just hear. It's not going to go well for many. War does not bring justice. That's not what war does. It doesn't bring justice. Not to mom and dad, not to the family, and all this. So Wesley says, hey, optimistic view. This will shake the nation without breaking it. War would hurt us so much. I hope in Jesus. What else can I say? That's right. That's exactly right. Wouldn't it be nice if it all played out in the courts? It's just not how third world countries do it. and we kind of are one now, but that would be amazing. I have all these hopes. Oh goodness, when Robert Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump together both say we stand with Abbott, and then 25 other others say we stand with Abbott, we can secure our border and stop an invasion of military-age males who are all from foreign countries, including our enemies, including terrorists who are on camera saying you'll know about us soon, like as they cross the border, taking selfies for goodness sakes. Like I think it's okay for us to say, go guys, like do the good thing. Hallelujah. I think we're okay to do that. I think it's okay to wonder why a political system could get so entrenched and static that it would do this to its own body. Who harms a member of their own body, right? That's Paul talking about marriage. But that's what's going on here. Again, on a very, very powerful level. Military recruitment is down. You hear that? And it's down. They're like meeting 25% of quotas, something like that. Largest section of military recruit males in the past, male and female actually, but who's mostly going to sign up for your military? It's going to be your Caucasian male, by and large. And guess who's not signing up for the military right now? Caucasian males. Wonder why? Oh, they're probably racist. That's what it is. They're all racist. It's because they were told they were racist, so they're racist now, right? And there they are, right? Not in the military. And what would a government want with a bunch of military age males that they could bring in and, I don't know, draft or, give promises of degrees after service to, especially if they want to fight a war, I don't know, with Russia, somewhere else, a UN war, right? A UN war, a British banking war. And so, can you read between the lines? I'm just making it up too. I don't even know if I'm right. I don't care. This is what I love about the Discord. Kate was so right that every once in a while we'll get someone comes in there and they just take it all way too seriously. We have this one channel, Dystopic Cosmic Horror, and it's we just put whatever's in there. It might not be true, really. We're kind of trying to figure out if it is. That's kind of the goal. It's let's fact check some stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And every once in a while someone comes in and they're pulling their hair out, how can you all think this all the time? It's easy. I really don't think most of it. Although I am more and more aware of how much I thought couldn't be true has become mainstream true in a year. And there's the other side of it, which is you put something in that's old hat conspiracy theory. Our conspiracy theory now is much higher and smarter than yours. If only you knew how dumb your conspiracy theory is, you'd have our conspiracy theory. And there's that whole mentality to the thing where everyone wants to believe they really, really have figured it out. And I don't pretend to that. I don't want anyone to hear me talking about my little storyline. I think that's what it is. I just think there's possibilities, and that wicked men are going to take advantage of those possibilities. And it is time for you to put on a white hat, not be a wicked man. Stand up and do something good where you are. And if that means you're a Border Patrol agent, if that means you're a Texas Ranger, whatever, it doesn't matter to me. If you got into anything ever because you wanted to be good, now be the best, right? Make virtue your beacon, mercy, justice, these things. So, yeah, that's really what's on my mind tonight. I don't think much will change here in Rockford anytime soon, other than if it all went weird, we're in Illinois, and Illinois is going to be a different country or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. That would be interesting. But we're right near the border. We're right where trade needs to be. Look at that. Crossroads. So you can visit us in Rockford, Illinois, by the way, sba15.org. Our congregation is there praying and worshiping every Sunday. You can join us and hear about Jesus, just like you hear it preached on the channel. Also, speaking of Crossroads, the Hebron Collegium, HebronCollegium.com. Website in renewal, but still really not renewed. So don't go there. But come here. Come through. Got a number of guys scheduled for the spring now, and making, again, Rockford a place where you can set your trajectory for righteousness as a Christian man. HebronCollegium.com. While I'm selling stuff, you might as well support us at subscribestar.com/RevFisk. Yeah, you can do that. Yeah. Or you can go over to RevFisk.com and subscribe as a paying subscriber to the daily, almost dailies that come out there. And one or the other, say thank you to us for what we do here, as well as at Brief History Power and all the other places. And we want to say thank you to you.
Absolutely.
To do that for us. We really do appreciate it, as the economic engine that is the American dollar continues to become the roller coaster that they have long foretold it to be. Some would say it's been the plan from the beginning. You just got to milk it dry, then buy a new cow. If you work in centuries, the bankers might think that way. I don't know. I'm not that smart. But let's shift the gears, though. There you go. I dropped the bomb. I mean, you can respond to any of that, or we can just go somewhere better.
Yeah, you said, what do we do? And this is not my subject of specialty. I can't say that I have a lot of wisdom to offer as far as political and economic views and standpoints, but I guess as a wife and mother, my position, my vocation doesn't really change. Where I get my food to feed the family might. How often it comes to me and how creative I have to be in order to prepare it for us might change.
That's super helpful that your vocation, when it is a primary, when it is a principle, not just a job, but a principle, will not change no matter the season. And to see that as something that will remain solid through upheaval is really a valuable view of creation, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And something that you have encouraged us in our family to practice right now in time of pseudo peace is to practice following instructions. And like last night, I got to practice that. When after supper, we had our son had written a story, and it was getting late. He wanted to share the story, so we started, and then learned that the story was more progressed than we realized. And so,
when he started the second chapter, I was like, "Hey Meredith, can you please go handle the dishes?"
Yeah.
And then, did it work out? My hope had been that you could start the stuff, and then, he had like 3 pages left, and that they would come in and talk about it.
Oh no, that did not work out.
No, it did not. Oh, that's too bad.
No. Yes, it is too bad. But
because I know you heard the first chapter, so you could have talked about the first chapter, which was the more developed, really, too. The second chapter kind of started to not know.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if
where
it was even
going as
finished. And the story was based on a dream, and so
I didn't know that part.
I did follow up with him once he came in to the kitchen. But yeah, no, we didn't really get an opportunity to talk too much about it. But just following instructions without debate, without question, is something that I think as women today, it would do us well to practice.
Right.
It's not something that we've seen maybe even our mothers do. And so it's not going to be just a natural do.
No,
response.
No. And but it's interesting how, you being willing to do that at my request, spontaneously, it opened up space, but it's kind of, as we practice that way of looking at our relationship, because it means I have to own the capacity to lead. I have to then make the requests, right? And not feel guilty or bad for moving the family forward or whatever it is I'm trying to do. As that happens more and more, I think that like the intentions that I had, which didn't get fulfilled, will come to be fulfilled, right? So as a man sees his plans come to fruition, then the blossom's going to actually sprout, right? As opposed to if the plans are always sort of shorted at the root, you have the root still, but you may never really get the full fruit of what you're trying to do. And all of that's very vague. I mean, that's metaphorically looking at it. We're not talking about what your actual plans are. And my plan might have been a very bad one last night, but the way that we'll see it come to fruition is through continuing to practice this, which is, it is the way you said it. It's not the way our mothers acted talked.
And even really more, it's even if your mother did, it's not how the mothers and the women on the television do.
For sure.
And in one trip to the doctor's office where they have a television on in the waiting room will tell you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's the Proverbs are right in that you choose your friends wisely because they will lead you astray if they're not righteous, And are we choosing our friends? Is that what we're doing when we're letting
sold your
people
friends?
Talk
even wear a T-shirt that says
nightly.
"friends" on it, and you paid for them to be your friends, and they're not even like the kind. Like you can go to a bar and pay the bartender to be your friend. Like you can go to a psychologist, pay and be your friend. But like, no, you're really just looking at a screen with 5 people on it. You think they're your friends. It's just amazing what that does to us.
It's virtual reality.
It is.
Really.
It is. Golly. But then to imitate them really is a thing we're getting at here. And I would say, there really is something here. You said some of our mothers maybe did act this way. I think so much of it is is in the messaging of the matter, right? You can be obedient and be a real rude person about it and never say a word. You just send messages with your eyes. You can do it. You just never actually get happy. You can be bitter. Yeah. Or one can embrace whatever the task is, right? Whatever the place is that we've been put as a gift from Christ. And then what we find every time, each of us in our places, is joy, where we're supposed to be. So the difficulty of the modern woman's script is that she is fully empowered, like you said, to just not follow an instruction, but to question it. And this is really important. Like in any chain of command, any military scenario, it's incredibly important that like number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, everybody all the way down the line, everyone gets to say their mind. But it's also incredibly important that everyone doesn't say their mind whenever they feel like it. They say their mind when they're given the chance to say their mind. And then the rest of the time, they're striving to fall in line with the overall order. Which means, again, they like follow instructions without asking, unless they're given permission to speak, and then they're going to ask. Now, that's military. Military is doing this because if they don't do it that way, they die. Like really, it's not like an option. Or when it becomes an option, that military and that country is in trouble, right? But there's a wisdom there that is rooted in nature that marriage can't forget, really, right? We have to have some of that understanding of the time and the place for questions, the time and the place for discussion, the time and the place for interruption, right? And every house is going to have its own need. Every relationship is going to have its own need. We must be people who can distinguish the time and the place, right? And again, the script given to the modern woman is every time, every place, just speak your mind. And I just don't know. Men aren't given that freedom in the Bible either. So I don't know why, that'd be weird of me to say that that's wrong. Like no one's really given that freedom in the Bible, So but that really is the script for modern women. That is not the script for modern man. Speak your mind, whatever you want, whenever you can. That's not what's told that's not what we've been told to do in the relationship. Mm-hmm. That's not where we are. We have a very different script. We are supposed to hold our tongue all the time and then go away and be glad that we had a cave. I mean, that is sort of our box. And, we're supposed to be grateful for that. After all, you do everything for us, right? Which now mine does. So many don't. So, but they're told that you do anyway, right? And so the man's script is just in a completely different place. What men have to figure out how to do is to let go of the lie you've been brainwashed with without hating women as a result, as many of you probably do, right? And so you need to repent of that. But for the women, again, speaking your mind whenever you want to, however you want to, whenever you feel, is a recipe for conflict in your marriage, straight up. It's a recipe for conflict with your kids. It's just conflict is what it will be. And the beauty of vocation and place is it, and that's the military thing again, it can begin to distinguish where it is appropriate to speak and where it is not. The military goes to high honor to show complete signal of respect and obedience at all times. Mm-hmm. Maybe your family needs that. I don't think my family needs that. But I think that we can learn from the simplicity of what they do, what they see. And what does that mean? I don't know. It means this conversation, right? And it is key, though. We've brought this up before, and I'll bring it up again. The Aguirre book about Argentina's collapse from brief history power, and the challenge that if your family can't go out to dinner without, getting in a fight, then if there is a civil war that impacts your street and you all just have to get somewhere today to survive, you might not, because you'll all argue about it. Like, that's really worth praying about, I think. Jesus will be the one that saves you that day, right? You could dumb luck or planning, it'll be Jesus that saves you that day. But I like to think Jesus saves me through like showing me the way to go, right? And then I go. And in that, then the way to go as a family is with the order that is inherent in nature that the scriptures talk of, which doesn't say, husbands, keep your wives in submission so that they never speak. It does say, wives, respect your husbands. And it says, husbands, bear with your wives as the weaker vessel. Right? Isn't that funny? That's one. The first one's the one we want to take away. Take away weaker vessel. You know what that gives man permission to do, right? You ever think that through? Watch some women's sports these days. You'll figure out what I mean. Goodness. Maybe you won't. There's men in women's sports. That's what I mean. The man will tyrannize you. That's Genesis 3. Genesis 3. The man will tyrannize you. You have no choice in the matter. Your relationship with your husband will be one of tyranny. If he's a Christian, he's going to be like a good, repentant, often redemptive tyrant. If he's not, you just got the tyrant. No. And guys, she's going to talk back. She will mean good things when she does, and it will not feel that way to you. Right? That's part of it as well. Which is where for both of us to learn to be slow to speak, quick to listen, right? Not let the sun go down on anger, all those kinds of things, right? That's advice for everybody. And then know your line and hold it. Which, I already said this in this conversation. I really want to hear what you have to say, but yeah, like the hardest thing is like, the man's script does not include, it is not on my script allowances of, Jonathan, what would you like to say at this point at the dinner table? Here's, list 1 through 25. In list 1 through 25, Meridith, will you please clear the dishes? Like, wasn't on the list. And so to do that was a great struggle for me. But I wanted him to keep reading. I wanted to start the family. I checked the clock. And so I took that step, but it was one of great fear, really. And I was not sure what would come of it. So I'm glad we're in this together as we pioneer our way into hopefully more direct communication is really what it's about. I said to somebody, as one of our guys at Hebrew knows, showing him book boundaries. Mm-hmm. And how, like in the past, you and I have talked about how some people, they kind of get the concept of boundaries initially, and they don't really get it though. It's more like, this is about me telling other people what they can't do, right? And it's like kind of, I have a boundary with you now, right? And that's kind of the thing they're going to do. But that the book is not about that, about how you can make your life what you want by telling other people what they have to do. But that it is about creating a boundary between yourself and the emotions of others. Mm-hmm. So that your emotions are yours and their emotions are theirs. And that task alone, I think for many people is a worthy endeavor. But that idea of self-completion, right? That you can be in a room with 1 or 3 other people who are all having their breakdown, right? Mm-hmm. And that you are able to retain some level of your presence and exert control for good. For the good. That's what jiu-jitsu is about, by the way. To retain your awareness and exert control for the good. And I think, that is what Christ will have us do when we love, according to our vocations. Exert control for the good. That doesn't mean be controlling, right? I'm not advocating for minutia control or anything like that, but this is important, guys. If you're a guy out there and you're following me because you're like, hey, I think Fisk almost figured out how to be a man and maybe someday he will, right? I want to go with him, right? Yeah, exert control for good. Like, we're supposed to exert control. They've been telling us not to be in control for so long. We've all decided it's bad to be in control. Nope, you really want to be in control. If you haven't decided to be in control, decide to be in control now. Are you a control freak? It doesn't matter. Decide to be in control. Stop being in control without deciding it. Control freaks don't know they're control freaks. That's the thing, right? They're out of control while they're trying to control so much that they're out of control. So, that's a different issue. I'm talking about, I'm in a room. There's 7 people there. I look around. I realize I'm the big dog, and I act like it. Exert control. What does that mean? Maybe you just sit there and let the kids play. I don't know. Maybe it means you get down and play with them. But that view that you are there to be the power of good in the space, it's kind of amazing how shamed I feel about that. Like, it's just wrong of me to be like, hey, family, let's clean. Or, my wife, please clean this. My kids, please begin cleaning this. Son, please go do this. And again, we haven't developed the home quite where, they're ready for that kind of instruction either. We've given them a lot of liberties with their mouths, and we're finding our way. Like, it's the spirit of the law, not the letter, to me still. Like, goodness gracious. It's the spirit of the law. We're after hospitality. That's what we're after. We're after comfort. A home you want to be in. A home others are glad to visit. A sanctuary. So, yeah. While she continues to write that down, you can go on over to RevFisk.com and subscribe to the Almost Dailies for free. There's only a little bit you might not see. Sometimes I'll let you see all of it. And I'm kind of maybe hiding the tree. Just the tree. Maybe the fiction. But yeah. Were we writing down, or do you got something else you want?
Oh, just the spirit of our home is comfort and sanctuary.
Amen. Please let it be. Let it be. It shouldn't take the threat of a civil war to compel fathers to own their duty and to press mothers into their vocations. It's amazing, really, that so many mothers, women, have had their glory stolen from them. But when you consider the capacity of the machines to print, manufacture, and program our futures, it isn't that surprising, really. And if you think about what idolatry was in the Old Testament, it was always an image that you were going to try to be like in some way, right? You're always manipulating people with religion when it's a false religion. It's not then entirely a surprise to see where we are, but again, it is so rare in the cultures of history. I mean, you can find it in the Bible. I mean, Sodom and Gomorrah exists in the Bible, right? There are times of great licentious wickedness that exist in the Bible, but it's pretty rare that you find men that aren't men and women that aren't women. It's really rare. In culture and history, anywhere, and that goes with so in the home, once you're married, the teamwork, this teamwork idea, this co-partnership thing, all this that all the whites are just yay, happy, that's just so is just so not the rest of history and the world. And the rude awakening that I'm kind of getting to it, because I was raised in that brainwashing spectrum. It's kind of scary what they didn't tell us about this world, honestly, and the men that are in it who aren't gonna think like we wish they would. Man, oh man, and that to not do your duty as a man in your space is to give those men license to come into your home and do stuff to your people. And that's what we're watching happen on like a grand scale. And now there's some men stepping up to say, no, we're not going to let them do that. But is it too late, or is it still just another psyop? I don't know. But we're watching it happen again. Men letting their homes be gradually taken from them. And it's about their not recognizing that it's their duty not to. It's their duty to stop it. Mm-hmm. To do something. And wear a white hat. Wear a white hat when you do it. I'm not. They're just looking for us to go out and be, yahoos. They really are. Goodness. Yeah, and that's what. So Frog Dad comments about January 6th. He says, "This is this thing. I can't wait to be done with Ecamm. What on earth just happened? I don't even know what's going on with that post thing there. I will try again with a new one. Nope, it's still super small. It took it when I grabbed it and made it really small. There we go. Frog Dad just says January 6th, 2.0 incoming. And I think that's kind of what I was saying too. Is January 6th was the quote unquote insurrection when a large number of Americans who were at the Capitol building to protest the lying, cheating, thieving, stealing of the election by loading of state ballots boxes all over the place. So Georgia, you can look into right now, is they're heated in this. Arizona, like the legal court battle is very clear. It's very clear. This isn't like conspiracy theory at all. It's very clear. So anyway, I lost it though.
January 6th, 2.0.
January 6th, 2.0. All the people who showed up there to protest, who were let in by cops. Some of them were shot. Although no cops were, but apparently, the story from the Biden administration is that some cops were. The story changes all the time. Nancy Pelosi used it as a big push for 2 years. 2 years of Congress's time taken up on this, and people sitting in prison still for this entire thing. And it's very clear, recent footage of her own personal security, planting stuff. It's just the wickedness is so there. You can go ahead and again say, Pastor Fisk, you're jumping state and church, and you're going back and forth between. You shouldn't do this, Pastor. Okay, whatever. If you really can't, you want to watch Jezebel steal in front of you, that's fine. But I'm not gonna be like, she's not stealing. It's really. And Nancy Pelosi, by the way, check out the Nancy Pelosi tracker on Twitter and just watch her financial portfolio go up, and how every law she passes, just golly, she bought the right company at the right time. It's really something. Blah blah blah. We're protesting this, right? And there's members of our own government's secret services that instigate this and instigate moments of violence in this, and then don't get arrested, even though y'all know Ray Epps, right? You know his picture by now. He's not in trouble, even though he was storm the Capitol, all this stuff. Why is he not in trouble? Anyway, the whole thing was a false flag. The whole thing was a bait and switch. They wanted to get us to step in and say, yeah. And then they took a bunch of pictures and they told everyone else, here's what happened. And that's what, so Frog Dad says is going to happen down there. And I would suggest that he's not far away from the way they're thinking about it. That is, this is the way it works. D says Benedict option it is then. I guess so. You been to Rockford? Let's not retreat though. I think Dr. Kuntz's criticism of the Benedict option is that if you go into the foothills of wherever and start your new commune of awesome, we're the best Christians and we're not a cult ever, and we're successful, they will conquer you later. So you can't hide. And that's Dr. Kuntz's thing. We must fight for the society now And by fight, I mean with our mouths, with our lives, right? With who we are, with our worship. Or we won't have it. It'll be taken from us. There's nowhere else to go. You will be the servants. And it doesn't mean Jesus can't raise up a new Joseph or something, out of that. But hey, while you're here, pray today. Pray today. Yeah.
Any word from Pastor Wolfmueller on how things are? He's on the ground over there. I mean,
in Texas, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. Austin's not quite Texas, though.
Oh,
it
we
is.
Just switch the cameras so that I am the only
That's
one.
Pretty fun
on the screen.
I love this. There it goes.
Here you come.
This
you
is that
just have
wire.
To wiggle a wire.
How many of these wires do you have to
That's
buy from
fancy.
Amazon, from China? Best Buy is not much better these days. And that's the local one. Or am I supposed to buy wires locally? That is not. Oh, it's just a disaster. Before I took the camera off,
I was asking if you've heard from Pastor Wolfmueller.
Oh yeah,
since he's on the ground over there.
Austin's a different place.
Texas.
It'd be worth reaching out to him. He's also the busiest man alive, and maybe not quite. Trump's probably busier than Wolfmueller is, but no, I haven't asked. He's not on the border. Austin is the city in Texas that is blue.
Oh,
Austin's where the Californians have been moving for the last decade. Austin is the planted destruction of Texas, the seed inside. That's why you can't escape. You have to actually go and change what they are by what you do. Which for us would mean, you want the solution, conservatives? It's just it. When you're in power as a conservative, you do the right thing and you stop letting them say uncle. When they say uncle, you say, I'm not your uncle, go to jail. Right? That's it. Conservatives get in power and they play nice. The other side cries and they go, oh, I'm sorry. And let's work together. And then the other side poisons them the whole time. And then the other side gets control and they cut your throat. And it's all metaphor. But conservatives don't do that. We get in power and we have these bleeding hearts, and we just get talked to all manner of stuff. And I'm not claiming to be better, by the way. Or don't elect me. It's bad though, because the need is for government to be run by men who believe in government. Like Biden doesn't believe in government. He believes in money. He doesn't believe in government. He doesn't believe in the state, the power of the sword for good. Government exists so that like the raiders don't come. That's what government is. We're like, hey, let's get together. There's good men here. Is there one good man who's strong and smart? Let's let him talk, and then we'll decide whether or not what he says to do is right. And then we'll stop the bad men. Because if we don't and we stay alone, then the bad men just come and take us one at a time. That's it. That's the history of the world right there. Man. Jesus, the good man, comes in to the middle of it all, takes it on his own shoulders, and now left you here. He left you here. What are you supposed to do? Sit and watch TV till he gets back? Put your feet up? Do some VR maybe. Or put on a white hat. Put on a white hat. Do something good. I don't care what. It's not going to be boring though. Marriage. You want to talk about marriage?
Yeah, we have one question tonight.
We do. I have failed to download it, so perhaps you could distract everyone with some wise talk while I quickly get it. It shouldn't take me but a moment.
Well, I can say that there was a minute before we went live, and you were collecting your thoughts, and so I just randomly opened this altar.
That's a good thing.
And Psalm 43 says, "Oh, send out your light and your truth," speaking to Christ. "Let them lead me. Let them bring me to your holy hill and to your tabernacle. Then I will go to the altar of God, to God, my exceeding joy. And on the harp I will praise you, O God, my God."
Yeah.
Now, have you gotten our things where they need to be?
Almost. I'm looking at the comments here. Wesley says this, I think is what we're talking about. Questioning everything can get rather tiring. Talk about impossible standards. Yeah. Yeah, it is ridiculous. But you have like the option to turn it all off, which no one's going to do. If you're not going to turn it all off, then you have to discern. If you're going to discern, then you can't take any of it at face value because it's all coming through a screen. And the definition of a screen, by the way, is a filter. Think about it. It's not coming through. Whatever is supposed to come through, whatever looks like it's coming through, is not all of it, right? And why is that? Well, so it's exhausting. It's exactly right. Modern life is exhausting. It is too complex. There's too much to know. There's too much that you cannot prepare for. You must, in fact, have a God, or you're kind of screwed. And that's a fact. That's a super fact. All right, here we go. Well, there we went. Almost there. There it is. It's going to be a little bit of a longer read here. Very important question. RevFisk Meridith. I'm a third-year seminarian out on vicarage. While here, I have met the woman that, without a doubt, is the woman the Lord has prepared to my wife. Now, I just want to say, remember how, like 7 months ago, you were like, it's never going to happen. Just remember that? Okay. And so I want you to tell everyone that you know how stupid that was and that it'll happen. So anytime anyone comes to you, I don't know, just say it'll happen, right? Because it does. It happens. It happens. This is clear to her, both of our families, everyone at both my vicarage and home congregations, our friends, etc. Wow. That's like that's a pretty good mark right there, man. When it comes to marriage, literally all the wisdom we had been given is to not wait, to get married soon. That is before I return to seminary. The only exception to this advice is her parents. I recently asked her father for his blessing to ask her to be my wife, to which he gladly consented without delay. However, after talking more with his wife, they stated that they wanted us to wait a year and a half. Their reasons are to make sure we are financially set, and because being apart for another year will strengthen our relationship, since we haven't had time apart since we got together this fall. Not only can I not find any biblical precedent for this, it seems to go against the clear teaching of Scripture to hold fast and become one flesh, to live joyfully with the wife whom you love all the days of your vain life, etc. I do not wish to disrespect them or disregard their feelings. We deeply want to honor the fourth commandment. Yet, so doing, it seems to go against the clear teaching of Scripture, along with the wisdom from my family, our friends, our church members, professors, pastors, etc. It also wouldn't seem to be beneficial in regards to finances, nor can I imagine it would help strengthen our relationship in the way they think it may. Could you provide any wisdom from the Scriptures on this matter, especially in regard to honoring the fourth commandment, even if it seems to go against what God says about the gift of marriage and family? Do you have any wisdom on how to go about discussing this with them further in the kindest yet biblically faithful way? I don't know about that one. Thank you so much. I should also add that I am 30 years old and she is 27. So this is not a situation of hastening with our feet due to youthful passions. We truly desire to fear God and keep his commands and be a blessing to the body of Christ. Thank you, and God bless you and your family. Okay, so you're going to get married. Okay, get married. That's the short answer. Get married. Why? I know why parents do this, but okay. Like, in what order? Let's start with being apart for a year will strengthen your marriage. I don't look, we advocate if you are attempting to have a relationship with someone who's far away from you, that letter writing can be a powerful, powerful bond and can develop that relationship over time. In fact, I think if you live down the street, letter writing can be a powerful, powerful bond. I don't think I would ever encourage anybody who believes they should get married to separate for a year, move away from each other, and write letters to try to make it better. Like that to me is the height of, like, when you're the Gnostic. Here's what Gnostics do. They draw a bunch of stuff on a board and they call it a blueprint. And you're like, that looks like a blueprint. wow, they must be right. And they're like, look, see, it even adds up. Look, I have an equal sign. Equals true. It's written. Right? But then you take that idea, that dream that they're like, it all made sense to your fallen reason. And then you go out and you try to do it and like it crashes and burns. It makes me think again of the potato rocket. The potato rocket was the best thing ever. And I mean, so waste your time with video games. Do not. But if you do, and you build a rocket in Minecraft to wear on your back, make sure you talk your son into building the potato rocket first, because when it blows up in his face, it'll be funny. And then when when his older sister decides it was her brother, and so it was probably his fault, and so she can figure out how to make it work, and it blows up in her face, it's even more funny, because that's all the potato rocket does, is blow up in your face. So don't potato rocket your marriage. That's my advice. Everyone understands what I said. They do. I think that it just doesn't add up reasonably to say, let's separate and that'll strengthen us. Like that's just not how it works. No.
Not generally.
No.
Okay. So
there's other stuff too, right? But that's just on that thought.
Yeah. So, yeah. No.
She's good. I hit it. Yeah. So, she agrees you should get married. Now, regarding the rest of the stuff that you talked about, so there was the advice of separating because it will strengthen your marriage. You're not married yet, but anyway. Then there was financially ready. Okay, so that's the one that like every mom and dad is going to pull out. And if they don't say something about, are you ready financially? They aren't doing their job. I mean, really, it used to be like, hey, sir, can I marry your daughter? And he's like, well, can you? No, show me the money, buddy. And it wasn't for me, it's for her. Right. So, what I want to be very clear then about that is, perhaps easy to overlook when you are young and zealous, is that children do cost money. They do. They cost a lot of money. And your wife actually costs money. The house costs money. If you're both making incomes, it's still, you're going to spend it. It's going to churn, right? There's a lot that's going to go on. This is not to say wait until you have more. This is to say understand what lane you're stepping into. Because before this is just you. You can bail anytime. And now it's not. Now it's a financially tied up scenario, which, by the way, is probably cheaper to live together than apart when there's two of you. It's when that third and fourth come that it's less cheap, which is why the parents want you to wait to have kids, right? Wait to get together. Why? So you don't have kids till later, which, by the way, you're 30, 27, you got a window. So like, they're thinking about finances. They're thinking about money. They're thinking about their retirement. They're thinking about your retirement. They're thinking about a world that probably won't be here in some ways. Maybe it will. Maybe you'll have everything you did in 1990, but I don't know. And so, what they want to say that is good is you better be ready for this, right? Get your act together, and don't mess around. This isn't a game for children. You can starve. It's possible. You can ruin your kids' lives. It's possible, right? So like take that seriously, everybody, right? But then from there, this idea that, well, in a year and a half, you'll have enough money. What are you talking about? That is not where it's at. Especially if you are of the subscription that believes that the bread comes from Jesus and that he gives the food. Well, then you're going to be okay. Like he doesn't curse his blessings, and he blessed them and said, be fruitful and multiply. So that is what the blessing is, right? So, and steward the earth. So that's just on the, that second part.
the financially ready time.
Yeah. The mammon worship. You got thoughts on that one? I'm sure a little bit.
That one specifically, I mean, everything that I'm thinking is like, yeah, it's not going to help them get.
So what will help? What do they
ready.
need? What do they need? I mean,
Well, I mean, his question is biblical
Yeah.
support of him getting married before he goes back to seminary.
yeah, you're not going to get biblical advice on the narrow scope of your life. It's just not going to happen. The biblical advice is be fruitful and multiply, fill the earth and subdue it. That's the biblical advice. Your advice you're asking for, what do I do about the fourth commandment? How do I honor the fourth commandment when it goes against God? Yeah, that is not the fourth commandment. The fourth commandment doesn't go against God. You don't honor your father and mother against God. You honor your father and mother under God.
So what's happening? Okay. Let's just do the math.
I'm going to say what's happening is the Missouri Synod has started to use the 10 Commandments to destroy people's faith, and I'm tired of it.
Yeah, I don't think it's just starting, but it's January. Okay, they're engaged.
Yeah.
And the parents are wanting them to go through another January and get to June of
25, sounds like.
25. And in June of 2025, as a seminary student, he will have
Wedding
call
and
day.
ordination. Yeah, right. That's fun.
No, yeah. Let's just lay it out for everybody. Call day. So he will actually find out where he's going. Then he'll have his wedding. And then he'll have his ordination and installation.
Yeah.
And then, Lord willing, they'll get pregnant. That's a whole lot at one time.
Yep.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking as I'm like doing the math, and I get that they want him through quote unquote college first. He's like done with college. He's getting his master's. So he's 30. Not 23.
What it comes down to is an issue of faith. It comes down to an issue of trust again. Who's the author of life? Is life a gift or not? Do you plan? Are you going to mess around with your control of God's will your entire life or just now? Right? It's not you. It's them, and they did. How do I know that? Because this argument that they're making, they're part of a generation that did this. And if I'm done, I'm out. I'm out of that generation. Gen X, jettison. I'm done.
So then, my other thought is about Jacob and Rachel. And this gentleman is like living it, Laban gave him the blessing and then kept putting all of these hurdles in his way.
Yeah.
And Jacob just took it.
Well, it gets, yes.
And then he took everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe don't do that.
I would use Jacob as my example all the time. Stealing the household gods on your way out the door. Hey, baby, can you grab that golden statue for me? But there is something about seeing the injustice of it.
Because I can come up with like, all right, well, maybe let's not wait a whole year and a half. Maybe just a year. Because really...
Look, I'm 30, she's 27. We know. What on earth?
I don't know. The only reason you do that is because it honestly could take that long for the dress to get to the shop.
That's still a terrible reason. That's a horrible reason.
If you go to Etsy, it won't take that long. But
don't even, whatever. I'm telling you, it's about to be a civil war. Get married.
Yeah.
Have some time in the sheets. And then... God will bless you and go preach. Really, golly.
It's not a biblical reason, but it is a real reason.
Well, biblical reason for what?
Respect, sir.
Biblical reason for what?
I know that you want me to wait a year and a half to be established before I take on your daughter as my wife. However, the state of things in our country right now is one that convinces me that it would behoove us to be established before.
Does she want to wait? Sir, I know you want us to wait a year and a half. We're not waiting. Done. No reasoning. Don't explain. Don't give him any more. It's just, if she doesn't want to wait, you're just going to go. He can argue if he wants.
At what point?
Because she's not his anymore. That's the thing. She's not his anymore.
Well, that's what I was wondering. I mean,
she's in his house.
She's 27. And to be honest, I started having fertility issues at 32. Mm-hmm. He's asking her to start trying to receive blessings from God in this area at 29. That just sickens me. But I don't. They're not asking for me to be sick right now. They're asking.
What they're really asking for is the right to break the fourth commandment, because the Missouri Synod has taught them that the fourth commandment means do what your parents say no matter what, and even if they're evil people, you must love them and like be under them and act as if they're not evil people. And that's just not what the fourth commandment says. That's not what the Sermon on the Mount says, but is what we've kind of driven into people so that they bear up with and endure abuse that they need not endure. And I'm not to say that Christians don't endure abuse. We do. We endure the abuse we need to endure. But we are not required to sit there and endure abuse from people that have lost the right, really, because they do it to us. So the idea that if you go ahead and get married, you would somehow be dishonoring them, right? Breaking the fourth commandment. Only can possibly hold up legally. I'm talking like Mosaic law code here now. The only way this is legally going to hold up is if she authentically lives in his house and takes food from his hand. But if he sent her to college and she had even a single loan, like really, you're done. You're done. He has no authority. He's just a puppet figure who wants to think he's her father. But you're all serfs. Hello, I'm one too. We're slaves to this system. You got a mortgage, you got a student loan. Welcome to being a bond servant, right? And if you were sold into bond servitude and then your parents are like, well, we still want to tell you what to do, they're wrong. They're just wrong. It's just not how it works. Like legally, you are out. You're done. There is no family. I know you want to keep the name and all. It's very nice of the elites to let us think we can. But really, you've been treated like chattel, and off you go. So that the parents don't mind that they treat you like chattel, that the generation above us, the boomers, don't care that they treat us like slovenly food to be sold. Well, I mean, that's them, right? It doesn't have to be us. It doesn't have to be you and your wife. It doesn't have to be you and your family. But you I would talk with her a lot about this.
Yeah, that does make a difference now, doesn't it? I mean, if she's eager. The thing is that the reason this reminds me so much of Laban is that he gave the blessing. He was excited about it and then came back and said, well, now, wait a minute. And so, like, you have the blessing. So, like you said, they can go ahead.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. It's, it remains that honor your father and mother does not mean do everything that they say. It does not mean that when you are an adult, you must be a child still. It means that when you are a child, do everything your parents say. When you're an adult, make them have the best name you can with your own name. Like that's how the way I honor my father isn't like that when my dad didn't do this, but he throws an alcohol-filled wine glass across the table and it hits the wall, and I just ignore it. Oh well, I don't want to disrespect him. I don't want to dishonor my father by acknowledging his sin or something like that. No, honoring my father means that I go out and I make the best name for Fisk that I can make. So I honor my father. I live. That we've turned this into some sort of like pure rote obedience for evil into adulthood. Again, it's just. Your consciences are bound. It's the whole put the best construction on an 8th commandment thing too. You're like, oh, it's evil. Well, put the best construction on it. Like, how many of the commandments did we ruin? Really? Murder? Oh, we take Jesus' words, right, about hate, right? And now we're all going to feel bad all the time about anger. Don't ever be angry. How much of man that is good have we lost because we've done something stupid with the 10 commandments that they're not even about? And Lutherans, ask that question. Ponder that question. The 10 Commandments aren't the problem. I don't think it's Luther's interpretation that's the problem, but what's what we're doing. We're somewhere between the large catechism and our dogmatics. We got wicked with these things, and then what it's done to our people, man. So again, honor your father and your mother. When you're a child, that means do what they say. When you're to their house, you're eating their food. It means do what they say. When you're now your own house or under somebody else's house, it means give a good name to their name and don't disrespect them in public. Try not to disrespect them to their face. However, they might decide to tell you that disrespect is you leaving while they're yelling at you, and well, then you're going to have to disrespect them. Right? If that's how they define it, right? So like you can't let them rule you with their emotions on this matter, really. And that's where, again, my big concern in this whole thing is the mammon that drives it, and then the way that you already are feeling manipulated by it, that you've got to come up with some sort of defense for it. And I get it. She probably loves them a lot, and you really want to do well with them. But I mean, your answer is like one of these ones where I find this happens here too. So, a guy will come here and he'll be like, I just don't know what to say. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to. Okay, I need to talk to you, Pastor Fisk. And so we'll talk, and he'll lay out his problem, and he'll be like, so here's the problem, and I don't know. And I'm like, okay, so you said you're 99% sure of all this stuff, and here you're 1% unsure is this thing, and your 1% unsure is obviously wrong. And so what is it you want again? Well, I'm not sure what to do. Oh, well, you're supposed to do the 99% thing that you're really sure about. Oh, really? Thanks for saying that. Something about permission. I don't mean to mock. We really do need it. It's something about permission. And just realize you're getting permission from a screen. And but what you're bothered by is the lack of permission where it ought to come, an obvious source. You're an obvious good match. Everyone else knows so. And now you find a rebellion for greed's sake. And that bothers you, right? And you want to know from me as a respected source, because I'm on a screen, do you have permission to think your own thoughts are true? And yes, your own thoughts are true. It's obvious. It's very clear. It's so clear. It's not even funny. It's just really sad. It's going to be tremendously painful. And I would suggest to you there are probably refractional, emotional, social, cultural issues that your wife and you are going to have to figure out later between yourselves, because that's what happens. If they talk and feel this way, and she doesn't talk and feel this way, that doesn't mean she doesn't have scars from this kind of programming again. And how we work those out, well, better to do it in the same house than a million miles away. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think about the ages, and I pray that if the Lord introduces our daughters to their husbands at the age of 27, we rejoice.
Amen.
And bless them on their way, like it is a gift that they have been given marriage. Why are we holding back?
Yeah. Well,
now,
that's always the case.
That being said, it is not going to make life easier.
Yeah, good. Good. That's
so
that money warning.
Let's not, pretend that just because we're married, suddenly all of the challenges of life as singles go away and we have no challenges. No, it just gets exponentially harder. But more fulfilling.
More complex with life
complete,
as it grows.
Yet very, very hard. Like, there are so many blessings as well as curses that come with everything, It is a challenge to be single. It is a road that is for the stout at heart. You have to live in a way that is completely different than somebody who has a marriage relationship. But once you get married, it's not all about you ever. And that not all about you only expands more. Like suddenly it's 2 and then it's 3 and then it's 4. You know, it's not like you are just the 2 of you.
No.
Ever again.
No.
And I mean, he's already kind of experiencing this with regards to the fact that it's not just his parents blessing the marriage, it's her parents too, and then they're throwing a little bit of a wrinkle in it. And so he's already experiencing a little bit of the challenge that comes with marriage and uniting families and uniting traditions, and on top of it, he doesn't know where he's going to be. Where they're going to live. So I think as a wife of a pastor, I think having the opportunity to be at the seminary is a tremendous gift to the wives.
Absolutely.
It gives you camaraderie. It gives you training in a way that, not going to seminary, you're going to lose that. So it will be a blessing to her if she is able to go to the seminary with you, at least part of your 4th year. I think it will make your 4th year more challenging as a student because you can't have the same study habits that you've had. You're not going to have the ability to hang out with your buddies the same way. You're going to be pulled in different directions. And then if she does get pregnant, that has a way of changing a woman's maybe behavior or personality, and sometimes that can be tough. So, you know, it's a lot.
That's good. You said that really well.
So, I mean,
amazing creatures.
There are
women.
blessings
They're
and curses in both realms.
Yes. Yes. I feel like I want to say more about the 4th commandment. The text that I would put you to, if you really want a Bible text, is going to be from Acts. I believe it's around chapter 4 or 5. And it'll be, you have to skim a little, it'll be when the apostles are commanded to stop preaching in the name of Jesus, and they believe they're beaten for it. And they say, we must obey God rather than men. And so, if a parent comes along to you and says, because I'm your parent, I have the right to say to you, you can't do that, and they don't have the right to say what they're saying, then you must obey God rather than men. To allow a false authority, to allow a man to make himself tyrant without opposing him, is to break the 4th commandment, is to stand by and watch it broken. So understand what a dishonor the family does to your name when they ask you not to have children. Understand that. What a dishonor that is to you. What a shaming that is to you. They don't even know. They're so ignorant, they don't even know their shame. So, that's the sexual revolution, right? At work among us and still here. And, for our part, we're trying to undo as many of those knots in our life and house as we can. And so don't mean to sound bitter toward those who are still blind, but it is, those of you who have woken up a bit, how tough it is. The way I hear the youngsters talk about it, they just blame the boomers as a whole. The boomers may as well be the one race that you could be racist against, right? You can be, the boomers are just bad. And the sad Simpson style effect of that is, kind of a lot of the time that's, golly, it's just too true. It is a fact of their generation, it is a fact of their programming. Not always true, not every person in that age group it fits, but it is something. There's a real moment where it turns.
There is something that they went through that hardened, and I don't think it's all of them, but it's not, we live in a country that, from an outsider's perspective, is not doing very good things.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for us walking down the street to be labeled or lumped in with somebody who holds to or supports all of the things that the U.S. government is doing right now. It's shameful. But yes, there is definitely a mindset that they were indoctrinated with in that generation, that they weren't ready for the power of the media. And so, and they came from a generation where the Bible was still upheld as kind of a law book, at least, you know. So it's sad and it's unfortunate, but it also saddens me to hear that people are wanting to be, are willing, I should say, to be so negative towards just an entire group.
Well, that's what's shocking to me when I hear it too, because I'm so used to like couching my words carefully. But that's what's coming, is that the lie is so just distasteful at a certain point when you've grown up in it and you break out of it, that younger group they just don't have any patience for it at all. Right. And then it borderlines on malice. And why? Well, because they've been hurt. Yeah. Because we right. have been hurt desperately by their behaviors and their eyes. This hurts. What's happening right here? It hurts. We want to get married? No. You need more money. Right? Well, if that were true, if you were 21 and she was 16, you had nothing going. Right? But like, you're right where you want to be to get married right now. It's great timing. If you're gonna have a late marriage, it's great timing. So, it's the use of the fourth commandment to enshrine things that are anti-biblical, to be anti-family is to be anti-biblical, no matter what the LCMS says. We've often been right, but at times been wrong. And you do not use the eighth commandment to hide evil. And you do not use the seventh commandment. Let's see. I shall not steal. Yeah. Well, interesting. Yeah. To prevent sharing, which is what copyright does, by the way. Anyway, how many of them do we turn upside down? How many of them do we turn upside down? It as Lutherans, as we use them in our psychology. How often is honor your father and mother a source of joy in the Missouri Synod? Something we long to do. It's such a good thing. You can't long to want to submit yourself to someone who is saying evil things to your face. That's not what Christians do. We don't get to the point where we're like, oh, it's okay, I love this hate. No, we do love through the hate, but we really do overcome it and put an end to it. Part of that is just having families again, acknowledging the power of nature, and that's what the boomers don't see. They can't see the power of nature. Is why the blowback of society collapse. It's too hard for them to believe. It's been so safe for so long. Yeah.
So I just had a thought. Did he mention that the supervising pastor is on board with his marriage as well? Oh, okay. Yep. Because I was like, whoa, what if that's the father?
Oh, that'd be fun.
And then it's like, well, maybe wait till you're back at seminary. Then set the date. My thought was, as you were speaking, I was thinking about how oftentimes there's a mentality where each child leaving the family has to kind of reinvent the wheel and become their own economy, their own house. And now, was it you and Kuntz who spoke about this on Brief History of Power? I feel like there's another space where I've heard people discuss like this concept of blessing the kids and helping them prepare for what's ahead. Like, wouldn't it be wonderful, instead of buying, I don't know how many wedding dresses they're advertising that we buy now for that whole state of things, but I think it's like 8. Instead of buying 8 dresses for the woman, buy her some land, or at least give her the money instead, so that her husband and her can help pay for their rent or their food, or whatever it is.
Right.
Help set them up for success, instead of
Yeah.
having the largest venue imaginable with all the cake you can eat and then some.
Oh, the wrath is going to come. The fire is coming. We just can't live like this for this long, this much ease and luxury, and while others are in squalor, it just can't go on.
Well, and then how
so
much time we spend preparing for this one day of princess and princehood, and how little time we invest in preparing our hearts and minds to actually be married. I mean, it is a ceremony that if you get through the planning of that together and you're still ready and excited to get married, like, you are set in some ways. But in others, it's like you're not ready, and it brings out a very stress-filled side of us. It's like entering into the rest of your life through chaos.
Yeah, there's something really sick about the marriage industry. There's something just really sick about it. And all you need to know that I'm telling the truth is look at the divorce rate in the country. And then what we're doing can't possibly be what we think it is. Mm-hmm. And the fact that we spend as much money on it, sloth, gluttony, drunkenness, it just, while we are ruled by our women and children, again, the fire is just outside the walls. We are burning it down. We are Belshazzar drinking from the cups, And I'm not saying don't buy a white dress. I'm not saying don't celebrate that great day. Give your children a marriage and celebrate. But your point is, like, we're living in fantasy worlds where we're trying to have the sitcom come true, and we're unaware that we are literally selling our children into poverty, piece by piece, with these ridiculous expenditures that can't be, except for the King and Queen of England. And they sold you a Chinese version, and now you're a slave. Boom. I mean, wow. Yeah. All it took was 2 generations. You were talking about, you started off by saying something like, why isn't it that families, don't see helping the next generation, be the primary thing? So I guarantee you, if you're born a Rothschild, it's not like, so what do you want to do when you grow up? Mm-hmm. Oh, you're going to go off and do your own thing, are you, son? No. It's like, you silver spoon in your hand and it's a rod and you're going to use it. Right? You're going to have a passing on. What are they going to say? Rothschilds are stupid. You shouldn't be like us. Watch TV. We're too dumb to. No, they're going to say we're the smartest people alive, and we know it. Look, we have all this money. You are like us. And who knows what other stuff goes on. But the point is, like, anyone who has any legacy knows, like, you don't just let go.
Yeah, there's no real question.
You pass it forward. It's worth having. Your name means something, or it doesn't, right? Or it doesn't.
Yeah, well, and that's kind of evident. Like, as I was looking at the scenario and doing the math in my head of this brother in Christ question, like you said, they're turning their nose up at the desire to have grandchildren. Mm-hmm. And then on top of it, like, why isn't the discussion, okay, it's really important that you guys do get married, and we want to support as much as we can. We can't do both.
Right.
A huge wedding.
It's not an option for the boomers. It's not an option.
There's
no option. You have to have the wedding, and there's not the thought that we would give you land. Why would we do that? You need to earn your own land. You need to go out get your own job.
And all
it's really
of
important
these,
for a young man to do
I mean,
that.
if you think about it, like, he's got his family, he's got her family, he's got his church, her church.
Yeah.
their friends, their family, like if all of us came together
That's what happens.
and lifted
right?
up this couple,
Yeah.
it would be like they,
An nest egg.
yeah.
Yeah. That's in
Either
theory.
a
That's what
nest
the
egg
gift
or,
registry is supposed to be about, right?
Well,
In
yeah.
theory.
It's just, well, yeah. So
It's not the way it works out.
it's really great to have 2 bowls that match and chopsticks. But they will break. By year 10, you almost have to rebuy everything.
Land is good.
Land is good.
Land is good. I think a lot of young families or couples are helped out by their families. I think that is something that is done. But it is amazing how we are at like a season and a time where, as a whole, that generation that has the wealth is just going to spend it, and then the generation that's below is just told, wait longer to get married and try hard. And there's a certain here's a thing that's really kind of, maybe you know, maybe you don't know, but you need to know, and I don't think I'm speaking an ounce of falsehood here. 1940, 1950, 1960, 1970, 1980. You graduated from college. You did well. You just did well.
Mm-hmm.
Now you got land, you got house, you got a lot of money. You're going to retire well. 1990, 2000, 2010, you graduated college. You're in debt. You're in debt now. Probably be in debt the rest of your life. And the boomers don't know that. And they're like, what's wrong with all these guys? Why won't they work harder? I said, no, you guys, I'm sorry. My bitterness starts to come out. I've been at the front end of this thing, holding for guys behind me for a long time here, but it's coming out a little bit. But like, well, what's wrong with us? Again, you sold the farm. So what's wrong with us? You sold the farm. Now we got to pay for it while you travel the world on cruises and stuff while you retire, and then won't let us come to your house when you're sick or we're sick or whatever. Anyway, there's a little too much in my heart there. It's a Friday night.
So
I don't think that's just my heart though. I think that is a common experience. You all saw the pictures of people with their fingers against the glass and grandmas on the other side dying because they lied to us. Fauci testified last week. Social distancing. You didn't even know where it came from. It just kind of showed up. Showed up. Again, you go. That's a medical comment. Oops, YouTube. About done with them too in my head. I'm just so frustrated by it. Fauci was on the
What are you talking? You're just talking about fettuccine and how you have to give it space.
He said
in the platter.
I don't have the number, but it's like he said.
bread.
I do not recall like 72 times in the deposition. I do not recall 72 times. You ever watch Clear and Present Danger? You should watch Clear and Present Danger. Don't watch movies.
So when you make your fettuccine, make sure you have 72 noodles. It's a perfect number. Smother it with sauce.
So, I think it is valuable to lift up order wherever you find it. I believe that disorder is always worse than order. Even bad order is better than disorder. And so, I do believe that it is important for the fourth commandment to be one that we embrace as a center pillar of order. That is to say that God created man and woman in relationship with each other and with others. And those relationships are in up and down scenarios. There really is no side to side scenario anywhere in any human relationship. Nobody is equal in the most stupid meaning of that word that we tend to use it for all the time. Nobody is equal. One person weight. Why do they ask your weight and your height at the doctor? Because nobody is equal. Okay. And so to see that order that God made, it's not just about size. Size can have something to do with it, but that order is good, that inequality is there so we might relate to each other above to below and that below to above, and that these are good things, not bad things, right? That when one is above and gives down and one is below and receives, this is good, right? When one is below and gives up and one is above and receives, this is good, right? And so that is what all of us want to embrace in that fourth commandment. That's what the patriarch principle, sonsofsolomon.net, tries to pull out of it. That in any given grouping of humans, there is going to be someone who is their leader. You will usually be able to tell this by just watching, and whoever talks the most is their leader. And if none of them knows that, then that's his fault. But the one who talks the most is their leader. So then understanding that leadership is good, honoring your father and mother means that if no one is doing the job of father, do it. Doesn't mean insult your father at the table while you do it. That would be to do his job. Don't do his job. Do your job, right? If no one's doing the job of father and it's your job, do it, right? But now again, you're in like a group setting. You're out in the street. Everyone's got to run. There's terrorists. They're chasing us. Are you a woman? Shout, let's go anyway, and lead, right? like it's okay to do the good thing. The fourth commandment is not there to stop you from doing good. The eighth commandment is not there to stop you from doing good. This is where it's like wisdom folly becomes the framework we want to start using a bit so we can reclaim the 10 commandments and use them like they're supposed to be used rather than to beat ourselves up with them. Do good. Seek the light. And no, there's no passages in the Bible that say don't get married, except for the ones that are after a divorce. Then it tends to say that, unless there was adultery and, of course, malicious desertion and on and on. But there really aren't passages that are like, well, once you're 27, now it's okay. Make sure you have enough big barns. 2 cloaks or else. None of that. It's not there. It's just not there.
I just realized that there's a place in his question.
Oh, I did it again. It's back.
Oh, welcome back. Where he talks about how he sat down with the father of the fiance, got his blessing, and then the father went and spoke to his wife and then came back with the ultimatum.
And you're still just stuck on that.
Well,
Is it hit too close to home too? Because that happened to us.
No.
Effectively.
Did it?
Oh yeah, your dad said yes right away.
Oh.
And then I learned from you after because I drove up, right? And then I drove back, and then you reached out to me and you were like, I'm not so sure. And I was like, what? And then he had decided that it wasn't so good, and then you were questioning just what to do.
Oh,
and
you
then
asked him before you proposed online? I didn't know that.
Well, now I don't want to really be embarrassed in front of all these people because I don't know what you're talking about either. I know that we drove up together after I asked you if I could marry you.
After.
After I said, will you marry me?
Mm-hmm.
I went to ask him permission to marry you.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to know whether or not you were going to say yes before I was going to go talk to him. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I appreciate guys if you come to me first before my daughter, but honestly, if you've been in a relationship for a while and I know about it, I'm not going to be surprised if you're like, so you want to get married? Let's go talk to your dad. Like, whatever. Like that to me, the respect is respect. I need respect, not a bunch of rules. Golly, can I say that enough? I need respect, not a bunch of rules. So, because
we had talked about it through instant messenger.
Yes.
And before you proposed in person. And so that's where I got confused. I was like, oh, I didn't know you asked permission before we talked.
No, I don't think I asked permission before I did in person.
Instant messenger. That's how old we are.
We drove up there to ask in real life, and they were both your parents. We went to Chinese food. Both your parents were completely friendly about it. And then after I had left again and driven home via instant message, you told me that they did not think it was a good idea that we should move forward. And I think I remember initially it was a situation where, you as the woman were not quite sure what the right thing to do at that point was when you reached out to me. Because I remember feeling like, oh my goodness, like she's not going to marry me So that scenario of having someone say yes to you as the authority that you are trying to respect, and then betray you behind your back, and never actually come to. So he has you all have the nice thing of they've come to you and said no. That only happened after the fact, when we went back and argued more, and that was when they began telling us about moving in together instead as an option. So once we said we weren't going to not get married, then they just said move in together, and on it went. That was hard. That was really, really hard.
Yeah.
So that Jacob Laban thing that you mentioned earlier, and it's not like my conscience hasn't questioned it, throughout our marriage at various times, like where, you get in a moment where you're going to accuse yourself of something, and then there's the fourth commandment right there, right? Did I, because they were not in full agreement of the marriage, with the marriage at the time of the marriage, did I dishonor them and thereby somehow like curse our marriage or whatever? I mean, that's the way this works. When you get in your own psychology, you start thinking God's going to punish you for it. And, well, he's blessed us. I had to come to terms with the fact that, one, you'd been sold into slavery. Two, I did ask and receive permission. And then three, I was lied to about it. And that following through on that, was just one more version of the Gen X disaster that the boomer world has left us. And, I don't blame every boomer, but really, can you all take a little responsibility, for where we are here? Cause like y'all had the power a long time, and we're still sitting here, cleaning up the mess. And, part of that is our relationship, our marriage. We're cleaning up the mess of our families. We're trying to walk forward into something better than a sitcom. And then from there, every marriage and every pursuit of marriage. So I think, again, the writing is more than on the wall. Everyone in your entire world thinks this is obvious. You don't need more Bible verses on your side. I mean, 127, 128. Are you praying the Sons of Solomon prayers yet? 127, 128. Really should be all you need to just know marriage is good enough today. And there's never a time to put it off unless it's just till tomorrow, really. Need the flowers. Okay, one more week. But years? You're missing out on what life really is about.
Yeah, I like the clarification that you've given with regards to the fourth commandment. That's really helpful. And how honoring your family's name with your actions is key.
Yeah. A good name. Hard to come by. And hard to hold. It is strange how little value we have in them now. I think there are people who have companies named after themselves and they feel strong about it, but so many people name their children frivolously and then don't care about their own names, their own and their heritage again. And it's been sold as what it means to be part of America. You just come here and you just get in the melting pot and shop at Target. But I don't know. I think there's something more sinister at work there. Something dehumanizing. Because there's no reason that I can't, move to some country, get a job, work hard, and retain my identity. It shouldn't have to be lost in my children. But that is what this casino is about. And as Christians, whatever, rent a room in the casino, but then, don't go gamble your life away. I think that what I was saying about the fourth commandment and the eighth commandment and the fifth commandment and the Lutheran Church is not clear. And I don't know that I want to have anybody out there run too hard with it, but I want those of you who've been following me for a while to keep pondering it, because it is this like, why as Lutherans do we have what we know is biblical? Like we read it and it's biblical. It's evidently biblical. And yet when we talk about it, no one else knows what we're talking about. And then we hardly live with any peace of conscience. And we're all running around just completely paranoid and shame-filled and all manner of stuff. And so and then doing this kind of stuff to ourselves with the word. Using the word to harden our own joy. I don't know. Right. Or letting others take that word and use it to abuse us. And I think that maybe is something in the German Lutheran heritage, is that it isn't hard for all the parents to honor your father and your mother, and make sure that one's said a lot, right? If that's all you got, and then you grow up in that world where that's just pounded, and fathers do not exasperate your children only shows up once a year, right? And honor your father and mother shows up every day. That's not biblical then. It's not biblical. At that point, that's the letter of the law, not the spirit of the law. Isn't it interesting? I mean, I know why Lutherans have the Ten Commandments is because they're an excellent summary of what it means to do good. But isn't it interesting how the Ten Commandments are not really referenced in New Testament exhortations to virtue? Instead, you have these lists of things like works of darkness and works of light, calm, whatever. And they're all like the Ten Commandments. Like, it's not like they're not the Ten Commandments. They are. But somehow, Lutherans can do 10 Commandments without any of those other words. Like, you get the lists of the works of darkness and the works of light, and that's not what most Lutherans are going and trying to be or not be. So we can have the 10 Commandments and do the whole honor your father and mother thing, and then go and just be malicious and greedy. I think that's really something to just chew on for a while. How have we used these words of God to hide the other words of God? How have we used them to lie and prop up hate? It's really something. I don't think it's on purpose. I don't think anyone's doing it on purpose. I think we've inherited some sort of curse on ourselves, the way we use the words. We use the Ten Commandments to curse ourselves. And I get it, second use of the law. You're right, it does exist. But why would you, is that the only use of the law? Why would you curse yourself? So, honor my father and my mother. I'm going to get married and have kids. What do you mean? Of course I'm going to honor my father and mother. Oh, they said don't do it. Now you're not honoring your father and mother? No. They're dishonoring themselves. You are going to continue to honor them by doing what God would have you do, which is obvious. We don't have any other questions, and we still have some time.
Wonderful.
To chat and talk. It's 9. I think, what are we at? We got, 15 minutes or so till we have our 2-hour mark at least. And,
that went pretty fast.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us tonight, everybody.
Yeah, they've been chatting about a number of things like wedding dresses and
it's a hot topic.
Frisbee has a comment from a while back that says, women who have not faced infertility seem to think that science has got the solution to having children when they are older. The big fertility industry makes it sound simple and foolproof.
It's very painful.
Oh, look, there's more comments. I didn't see any of these.
That's funny. It doesn't scroll down for you.
The average price a certain year was $16,000. Oh, the year that Frisbee got married. And
for a wedding.
And they did it for 3. Yeah.
Wow.
That was a long time ago. Not too long, but long enough. Frisbee says that there's a question about whether or not 1 Corinthians 7 teaches waiting for marriage. So that's interesting. We can get there in the Bible on the screen. but it will take a moment to do so. Maybe. Okay, or not. All right. This is really not working out well at all for me.
The title of that section is Principles of Marriage.
Yeah. I don't know why they would call it that, except for I guess that makes sense. That's not really what it is.
And then there's Keep Your Marriage Vows, Live as You Are Called.
Oh my goodness, hallelujah.
And then to Unmarried and Widows.
Yeah. So, I mean, the whole thing, it's kind of a long section, is a series of answers to questions that Paul is giving because, remember, this is 1 Corinthians, Chloe's people have written him a letter about the growing schismaticism in the congregation, that people are picking sides over everything in the world. If you come to St. Paul Lutheran Church, you'll notice there's a couple books in the children's section that are not written by Christians, and one of them is called the Starbelly Sneetches. In the Starbelly Sneetches, you have sneetches that have stars on their bellies, and a man comes along and he says he'll put stars on the bellies of everybody so that all the sneetches can have stars on their bellies. It just costs money, and then as soon as that happens, they all have stars on their bellies. Then the one guy who doesn't have a star on his belly, he's cooler, and everyone wants to be like him, and then they all pay to have the stars taken off of their bellies, and the man walks away with all the money at the end of the day. What is that about? Starbelly Sneetches is... I got distracted from it. Is about having expectations that are fed to you by others in order to trick you into giving them what is yours, and at the end having nothing left over but what you had before. So what Paul then is doing here is dealing with a congregation that's starbelly sneezing itself to death over lots of different things, from communion practice to marriage practice to how women look in the congregation to how people speak with prophetic tongues to whatever. It's just that, but all of it is, I got the star, you don't. Okay. So that's the context here. And now the fight, think about how right now there's like fights in little places about head coverings in lots of churches, and Lutheran churches especially, because, Paul mentioned head coverings and long hair once is something you can do. And so now we're going to all, go do it. And now we're going to put on our heads and be proud of our humility and all this stuff. And the fight about it. What is being fought over is the same kind of thing, only instead of like, I'm better than you because I have a head covering and you have long hair. Now it's, I'm better than you because I am engaged to this woman, but I'm not going to marry her. And you're engaged and you're going to get married. But see, I trust Jesus more than you do because I can handle celibacy and you can't. I don't burn with passion like you do. So we will just remain neutrally not married our whole lives. And that's more Christian. And this section is Paul being like, no, 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 no. But you don't have to get married. But no, you're wrong. Like, that's this section, okay? Like, he's just walking through kind of, well, on the one hand, you could do this. On the other hand, it could be that, like, he's giving them all the kind of reasoning behind it. But at the end of the day, they're asking for a very strange thing. They're saying, well, isn't it right that we don't get married so that we can have Jesus come back while we're celibate? And he's like, no, that's not really what it's about. In the meantime, if you're not married, it's okay. In the meantime, if you're a slave, it's okay. In the meantime, if you can buy your freedom, buy your freedom. Do you see somebody crying? Go cry with them. You see somebody laughing? Go laugh with them. Live as though what you have is only here today to share, and live as though you're never going to get any more, except God's going to give you what you get. The whole section. And so should you get married or not? He doesn't give you an answer, but the answer is like, do you want to get married? Then get married. Do you want to not get married? Then don't get married. But don't go around acting like one is more righteous than the other. Don't posture with it. And certainly don't try to manipulate the future by stockpiling your greedy goods so you can have a better marriage or whatever. So I don't want to go through it all verse by verse because there's too much, right?
But it doesn't sound like that's support for waiting to get married.
So verse 17 says, God has distributed to each one as the Lord has called each one, so let him walk. So I ordain in all the churches. Where you call when you circumcised, don't become uncircumcised. Where you called uncircumcised, don't become circumcised, right? So he's basically saying Christianity shouldn't change like your normal behavior. It should make you a better person, but it shouldn't like make you change your clothes too much. Circumcision is nothing, and uncircumcision is nothing but keeping the commandments of God is what matters. Let each one remain in the same calling in which he was called. Where you called while a slave, don't be concerned about it. But if you can be made free, make use of it. Right? And this is the key again, right? Verse 24, let each one remain with God in the state in which he was called. But, you have the freedom to change states. It is not a matter of, if God gives you A or B and you were born A, you have to stay A. But if you're born A and God gives you A or B, you may choose B now. You absolutely can, right? So, but until then, don't buck against it. So the real, let each one remain in the state God has called him. That's like, hello, my name is single. It's like, oh, you don't have someone to marry right now? Well, then stop thinking about it. Stop worrying about it, right? Remain in the states you're in. That's what he's getting at. Be content.
Mm-hmm.
Have expectations that are real and find them fulfilled. So verse 29, the time is short. Even those who have wives should live as though they had none. Those who weep as though they did not weep. Those who rejoice as though they did not rejoice. Those who use this world as not misusing it, for the form of this world is passing away. Now, those who have wives as though they had none. I mean, does that mean that you and I should not hold hands? Right? Probably live in separate rooms now or something. I should live as though I don't have a wife. No. What it means is I want to put the things of this world second to the things of the next life. And so I can only really love you as my wife of this and the next life, right? If I try to love you as though this life were what it were about, I will harm us both tremendously. Right? Yeah. I must love you as though we are sojourners and you belong to another in the way that my flesh wishes you belong to me. You belong to me in the way in which he has given you to me, which will neither end nor continue in the life of the world to come, right? It's weird. But to live as though you were not my wife does not mean to not have you. It means to take each day for what it is and know there will come a day when I may not have you. And then I must still live on. Weep as though you did not weep. It doesn't mean like if you're weeping, you better stop or else. But it's like, okay, but then get up and go do the right thing afterwards. Right? And just keep going on. I want you to be without care. Right? And his point is not that you would never have worry. He's saying don't put yourself in worse situations. So, and that's maybe what your parents-in-law wish is that you would not have the care that they can foresee that you're going to have. I mean, you're going to be a pastor. It means you're going to be poor. The mouths are expensive to feed, and they don't want their grandkids to live less than they did, and they're just going to have to get used to it. You're going to have a different lifestyle. And if they don't want it to be that way, they can stop selling the farm and spend it on cruises, spend some time helping their grandkids. So 1 Corinthians 7, I don't know if that's really what you needed specifically to answer the question either, because it was just going to go around in the expectations and choose what is good point of view. But there are some verses in there that taken by themselves can sound like don't get married. Right? But they're by themselves. They're not, the context doesn't fulfill it at all. You're free not to get married. You do well, he says. But If you like what we do, we appreciate when you support us. You can do that by going to RevFisk.com and subscribing to the newsletter there, the Almost Dailies, and subscribing as a paying subscriber. That's the best way. The other way would be go to subscribestar.com/RevFisk. You can just go on the subscription model there and say thank you for this show and the others that we put together, as well as help support us as we continue to work for the Hebron Collegium and SB 815, St. Paul Lutheran Church in Rockford, Illinois, standing firm on the word and sacraments of Jesus Christ. Did the kids come home yet? Did you see the car?
No, not yet.
No. So, well, hopefully they will be back soon. They went ice skating this evening at the local digs with one of our Hebronites, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and we have another guest coming to spend Easter with us on his way to the men's gathering U.S., right?
That's right. Men's Gathering
called?
U.S. is happening against Europe. I think Brian's talking this time.
Nice.
And someone's coming through and staying. So, yeah, if you need a place to stay moving through Rockford, it is a hostel for Christian men only. Hostel, Hostel, not hostel. Although if you get on the jiu-jitsu mat, it can be hostel sometimes. But, $10 a day for your food and a clean place to stay. You have to do some chores, but you can move on through studying the theological library, work in the wood shop, play in the weight room, Hebron Collegium, Rockford, Illinois. All this. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. We will be back again next week. I'm sure that even though the governments are going to continue to do foolish and foolly things, we are going to be here waiting for our Lord's return next week as well, and supporting you, encouraging you to not wallow in the muck with those who have no hope, but lift up your head as you see the day approaching. This is Stop the White Noise with Jonathan and Meredith. I am Jonathan.
And I'm Meredith.
Jesus Christ is risen from the dead. That means you've been paid for, and that makes you immortal now. Rock on and hallelujah.
Was that worth $1? Click the Patreon link in the show notes to sign up. Pretty please?